The impeachment process is provided for in our Constitution. And I think that people can reasonably assume that this man is extremely dangerous. It's no coincidence that all of the current living secretaries of defense have come out in a statement warning this president not to use the military before he leaves office to further his basically false objective of trying to stay in office. There's a reason why that was done. I think every day that he stays in there, there's a danger that he could do something like that. I think the one way we have to get him out of there immediately is impeachment, removal from office, and preventing him from ever holding federal office again, which I must say, a lot of Republicans are going to find that very attractive if they want to clear the way to have a real presidential election.
The process itself, though, Gloria, you heard Congressman Crow. They could get a vote in the House by the end of next week. And that's moving at lightning speed for this kind of thing, right? It was 4 months for the last time. However, the House Intelligence Chairman, Adam Schiff, right, he led the impeachment probe in 2019. He was basically saying the trial itself in the Senate wouldn't even happen under all this until after January 20th, when Biden is in office, and that could make things a whole lot more difficult for Biden, that you have this whole thing going on.
Right.
And that maybe is why Biden seems at best lukewarm on this.
Right. Well, Adam Schiff is 100% right. It would be very odd to have an impeachment trial in the Senate after the president's no longer in office. Biden was completely unenthusiastic about this today. I mean, he kind of punted when he was asked the question. He said, well, the Congress has got to do what the Congress has got to do. I'm focusing on my administration. But I see what you're seeing on Capitol Hill are people who are so angry and frustrated about this president on both sides of the aisle that they're trying to figure out a way to hold him accountable in one way or another. They just feel like even if it doesn't come to fruition, they want to be on the record talking about what this president has done and what he incited, which they consider, and we've all called it, domestic terrorism. And they feel that they need a way to express themselves on the record officially, one way or the other, if Mike Pence is not going to say, okay, let's have the 25th Amendment. And it's clear Mike Pence, while he may not be talking to the president, is clearly not interested in the 25th Amendment.
Right. Well, and of course, it's interesting in the context, again, at the top of the program, I mentioned Lisa Murkowski saying that he should resign. Exactly. It's all about ego. You do have Republicans who weren't on board last time who may be this time, but again, that's over in the Senate. So thanks very much to all. So I just want to update everyone on what we're learning here on this situation, this breaking news on Twitter. A White House official is telling us that they are now exploring alternatives for releasing the president's next recorded video, now that he has been permanently banned from Twitter. The White House obviously had planned to release that statement on his Twitter account. Out front now, Brian Stelter, our chief media correspondent and anchor of Reliable Sources, and Donnie O'Sullivan, our correspondent who has been closely covering disinformation online and talking to many of the people who, were at this originally a Trump rally. So, Brian, obviously this is a big decision for Twitter. It's a private company, but they didn't do it for years and years and years, right? They did it now.
Right.
And it comes with a very chilling warning, and a very specific one, right? Not just because, all of a sudden they think he's a clear and present danger. There's a specificity to this.
Yes, Twitter's not just thinking about the past. They are thinking about the future, the next few days and weeks. Let's put on screen the warning that Gloria Borger read a few minutes ago. This is crucial to read again. Plans for future armed protests have already begun proliferating both on and off Twitter, including a possible attack at the Capitol or in state capitals on January 17th. In the days before the inauguration. We know, Aaron, this was not just in Washington on Wednesday. There were skirmishes in several other states. There were fist fights. There were other clashes in other states. There's a real concern about a further escalation. So Twitter is saying one of the reasons why Trump is now banned is because of that possibility. And this is the first time a world leader has been banned from Twitter. We've heard people saying, what about the White House account? What about the POTUS account? Just now, I've heard from a spokesperson for Twitter, Aaron, they're still trying to figure out what to do about those other accounts, but those are official U.S. government accounts. So that is a different scenario. And they say this ban does apply to Donald Trump. So if he goes off and tries to tweet from some other account, he will be banned from those accounts as well.
So, Doni, the specificity is chilling. You, of course, have been talking to so many of the president's supporters, and we've all seen those interviews. What's the permanent suspension? What's the impact going to be, do you think?
I think this is really going to rile his supporters up. I mean, Trump has been drumming the beat for years that big tech is out to get him, even though, he had one of the most powerful and the most influential accounts on Facebook and Twitter for years. Of course, the big question is, where does he go next and where does his supporters go next? And there are other platforms out there. They're much smaller. Don't get me wrong. The president will not have the audience he had on Twitter, but there are platforms out there like Parler that allow hate speech, that allow all sorts of violent rhetoric, and he could move there. And that's going to be a new challenge, in this week really of reckoning for the role of social media in the United States. This is going to be a new challenge. If Trump goes to a platform where there are no rules at all, and we saw how bad Facebook and Twitter have been in implementing any rules against President Trump up until this week, essentially, if they go to another platform, that could be dragging them into even more danger, even to a more perilous situation, Aaron.
So Brian, now the president's been banned from all these platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. He does have other platforms like Doni just mentioned, Parler, right? So what happens then? I mean, now there's reports that Apple's going to ban Parler, so people can't even get it on their phones in case he tries to do that.
Right, that Apple has sent a message to Parler, giving them 24 hours to address some content moderation issues. Apple has control of its app store, so it can remove Parler. We have seen these technology companies take action in the past against InfoWars, against other extremist content. Perhaps Parler is the next one. As Doni says, it's going to feed into Trump fans' sense of resentment and grievance. But the First Amendment does not apply to these platforms. And these tech companies believe there is a clear and present danger to the public. I hope the senators and House members hear that.
It's very interesting. And as you point out, they are not subject to the First Amendment. Brian, Doni, thank you both very much. And next, breaking news, the Treasury Secretary of the United States, now reportedly involved in discussions about invoking the 25th Amendment. Secretary Mnuchin, the Washington Post reporter who just broke that significant development, is next. Post charges filed against the rioters who stormed the Capitol, including the man seen in Nancy Pelosi's office. And Ted Cruz, the senator is desperately trying to rewrite history. He's hoping that everyone will just forget what he said again and again and again about Trump.